Drivers in the United Kingdom and France have the most powerful driver's licenses in the world, a quote from The Independent. But I want to know why, and how other countries match up to our exceptionally high standards. If you've ever had a driving lesson in Britain, or dare I say it, taken the practical exam, you'll be aware of how much there is to learn. Perhaps you're the only one in your friend group who hasn't got their full licence yet. Well, you'd likely be wrong, and not alone, as most of you probably won't have your full UK licence. And that's just assuming most of you have had the privilege to take the exam, which 54.2% of people fail. It's expensive in experience and physical cost. Compare the Market states that it costs upwards of £1,300 for the lessons alone, contrasting that of continents like America, where all you need to pass is a pulse and that's about it. If you do manage to pass in the UK, however, in terms of international driving standards, you've achieved a master's degree. You might think it's stupid if you're learning to drive that it's so difficult, or perhaps not. Maybe you've been brought up to think that this was the universal standard for everyone. Either way, it in turn has made Britain one of the safest countries in the entire world to drive in. In the UK, in 2018, there were 1,770 people who died in a road traffic accident. And while that might seem like a lot, that's out of 66 million people. In fact, worldatlas.com reports that out of every 100,000 people living in Britain, only 2.9 die in a road traffic accident per year. This statistically makes Britain the 5th safest country to drive in, only conceding to 4 other countries due to their low population density, translating to a low number of car owners. That explains the why aspect of it all, as obviously it's working really well. But if it is indeed working so well, why don't other countries simply follow suit? To probe deeper and see what our overseas cousins think of it and how they match up, I'll be talking to some international friends and former colleagues of mine. Hey, how are you, mate?
Hey, Harry, how's it going, bro?
I'm good, thank you.
Hey guys, so my name's Alex and I'm from the States.
So how many times did it take you to pass your practical exam?
I passed on the first go.
First go, okay. And would you say that's out of luck, or would you say that you were just you were trained in the right areas?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm a good driver, but I'd say that most people pass on their first go in the States.
Oh, okay. So how much experience would you say that the average American needs to pass their practical driving test? How much would you think they need to spend on lessons, for example?
Typically in the States, people don't pay for lessons. The way it works is that when you're 16, or in some states 15, you pass your theory tests. And then you get what's called your permit, which is like restricted driving permission. So you have to drive with an adult family member who has a driver's license in the car with you. You can only drive during sunshine hours, etc.
Yeah.
And then you just do a certain amount of hours, depending on the state, driving with your parents, and they teach you how to drive.
Your parents do it?
Yeah, your parents do it, exactly. And then with that, you can go and get your license.
Okay, so it's basically, it's free.
Yeah. Most people, you have to pay whatever it is, like $30 or $50 to get the theory test done and get the permit, and then another $50 for the processing on the license, but that's it.
And so did you pass in a manual or an automatic?
So I passed my test in an automatic vehicle, but I learned to drive on a manual. But in the States, there's no real difference. Whether you drive automatic or manual, it's just one driver's license.
Really? So even if you've been trained and you only know how to operate a manual, an automatic, you're free to drive a manual without any extra license or testing? Or...
Yep. Most of the country doesn't have public transport, and you're driving miles and miles to get where you need to go. So it's really a necessity for people to have a car. It's not a luxury.
So after talking to our overseas cousins, it would appear that the eased driving standards seem to be more to do with the sheer necessity of driving rather than it being a luxury, mainly due to the sheer sizes of these other countries. These high standards set by the DVLA for British drivers mean that when it comes to travelling abroad, we have international privileges. This means if you do want to drive abroad on a standard UK licence, go right ahead. The plethora of choices are many, and for most of these, there's no extra training or special permit required. So next time you are on a drive, wherever you are in Great Britain, be thankful that you've managed to achieve such a great achievement as passing your test, and be grateful that you're living in a country where the likelihood of you dying behind the wheel is extremely low, and where you're very unlikely to encounter any bad drivers at all. What? Watch out, you bloody maniac! God, idiot.